From the Corner Office is brought to you by Synovus Bank, championing business growth through trusted relationship-driven banking throughout the Gulf Coast region. Jessica Cain, general manager of the Grand Hyatt Tampa Bay, calls herself a jack of all trades but master of none, in that she's not a housekeeper, bartender, or front desk clerk at the property. But Jessica sells herself short. She's like an orchestra conductor, ensuring a 40-year-old hotel property with 443 rooms operates consistently at a high level. The Business Observer writes often about high-level leaders like Jessica in print and online. To read more, subscribe. Go to businessobserverfl.com. Hello and welcome to the Business Observer's From the Corner Office podcast. I'm Mark Gordon, managing editor of the Business Observer. Today's guest is Jessica Cain, general manager of the Grand Hyatt Tampa Bay. Jessica, welcome and thanks for being here.
Thanks, Mark. I'm very excited to be here. And honestly, anytime I get to talk about hospitality leadership and our people at the Grand Hyatt Tampa Bay, I'm all in.
Awesome. That's great. That's good to hear. And hopefully you'll still feel that way at the end of the interview because I don't know if I'd say guinea pig, but we're testing out some new starter questions and you're the first one. So here we go, Jessica. Are you ready for some rapid fire questions?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right. Are you a morning person or a night owl, and how does that impact your leadership style?
Well, when you run a hotel, you really have to be both. Hotels operate 24 hours a day. They never close. So some days I'm up before sunrise serving breakfast to our overnight colleagues. They're the ones taking care of the hotel when we're all sleeping. But other nights I'm dealing with emergencies at 11 o'clock at night. So this business teaches you adaptability very quickly.
Yes.
And, the hotel never sleeps, but honestly, that's what makes it so exciting.
Yes, you always a lot going on. Jessica, what's one word your team would use to describe you?
I would say authentic, and maybe that's for better or for worse. I don't think people need a perfect leader. I think that they need a real one. And I've really always tried to stay true to myself, never forget where I started or where I came from, regardless of where I am today. And I feel like that really shows up with my team. Vulnerability, transparency, silly, sometimes in the morning I'm at housekeeping stand up and we're doing our dances and our stretches. And other times it's it can be a little bit more somber, and so I think my message is that, again, they don't people don't need a perfect leader. They really just need someone that is authentic and can meet them where they are.
Yeah, it sounds like what you want to do is sort of meet them, as you just said, meet them where they are, but that could be different for housekeeping, for sales staff, for catering staff, for all of that, right? So is that a challenge, and how do you address that, dealing with all that changing?
Yeah, you bring up a really good point. One of the hardest things we do in this business, it's not checking people in or booking the business. It's leading people, and every single person needs to be led in a different way. To your point, what a housekeeper needs or a line cook is very different than what my executive team or the event planning managers need, right? And they're all at different phases in their lives and in their careers. So it's important to recognize that, and sometimes we have to change our leadership to do exactly that, which is meet them where they are.
Yeah. Moving on to another point, AI is so ubiquitous today that people are using it for all kinds of things. Are you a gut instinct or data leader, and why?
I would say that it's a little bit of both. Data is helping us make really smart decisions. And it's funny, I was telling this to somebody last night. If you look at my ChatGPT history, you would think I'm the most insane person ever. I am using it for all sorts of things, right? But hospitality is still deeply human. Sometimes I can walk out on the lobby floor and I feel something before anyone, before a report or data can tell me what's going on. Um, and we apply this in a lot of different ways, but that human connection, cannot and will not be replaced by AI. I think about when we hire people. Um, the data, the resume is really only telling us half the story. And in this business, I can't say that that applies to every business, but in this business. And so, how do they make you feel when they show up to the interview? That personal relationship or connection can tell you a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And on the hotel, there's a lot of metrics, as you just pointed out, that you guys use, right? RevPAR, right, is a big one, and revenue per each room, and filling the hotel is obviously important. What motivates you more in that context, winning or not losing?
I would say the answer is always winning. It feels good to win. It's easier to run a busy hotel that's bringing in the revenue and flowing it down to the profit than it is to run one that is not. But I would say in leadership, uh, me as the general manager, I never really win, right? My team wins. And they're the ones that deserve the credit and the kudos. Alternatively, when we lose, there certainly is accountability, but ultimately I am responsible. So of course I always want to win, but it's more important to me that the team is winning and that they're along for the ride and that they feel invested in our results. And then everyone wins.
Yes. Yeah. All right, Jessica, take us back. You spent some time in the Florida Keys, but tell us about your hospitality career and how you got into this business.
Yeah. So, my grandmother actually owned a restaurant, and it was an old school restaurant connected to a bar, had the vinyl tablecloths and the giant salad bar.
Where was this?
This was in upstate New York. So, so my mom would drop me. I'm 8. My mom would drop me off there on the weekends, and of course, I thought this was the coolest place on earth. I certainly perfected my Shirley Temple order very quickly. But I also learned how to make, pie and pizza and put away the Cisco order. And I obviously that is where I first learned, that hospitality is really about making people feel like they belong. And that restaurant was a family, the customers, the bartenders, the guy that came at 4 o'clock every day, or the one whose wife was calling on the payphone. They'd call me over and say, "Jess, answer that phone." I'm like, "What? You want me to answer the payphone?"
Right.
So answer the, is so and so there?
What what was it, a bookie?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, somebody's calling the bar on a payphone. I'm gonna be a little
I
suspicious.
mean, it was the '90s. It was a different time,
Right.
but
Yes. Where in upstate New York?
so I grew up in the Finger Lakes region, yeah, near Watkins Glen and Ithaca. Great place, beautiful, beautiful area. Moved on to school in Niagara Falls. Also a great place, and beautiful, but a little colder. Um, and after that, I moved south, and I've spent 18 years with the Hyatt Corporation, moving through different positions, 5 different hotels, and I, feel like I have to pinch myself some days because this is to me the greatest industry in the world, filled with so much opportunity. It's incredibly rewarding. Um, and it's my privilege to lead this team at the Grand Hyatt Tampa
And
Bay.
yeah, Grand Hyatt Tampa Bay, you said, a couple of years ago. So you got here to Tampa a couple of years ago. Tell us about the hotel and kind of what your day-to-day role is there.
Yeah, absolutely. So the hotel, 443 rooms, sits on 35 acres. Oyster Catchers, our signature seafood restaurant, iconic, sits right on the water. The business mix here, it varies throughout the year, but we're a little bit to everyone. We have a resort aspect and feel. We service a lot of business transient customers, a lot of groups, a lot of people going to Raymond James. But the interesting thing about what I do on a day to day basis, and I tell this to people a lot, is you know I'm the general manager. I'm responsible for everything, but I don't actually do everything, right? So jack of all trades, but master of none. And so, on my day to day in my day to day role, I'm leading the executive team, setting the strategy and vision for the hotel, all while making sure that we're delivering to our stakeholders. So our guests, our colleagues, the ownership group, and of course the community. But I'm not physically doing the work. I'm not cleaning the rooms. I'm not checking people in. I'm not serving the food in the restaurant. So, it's always been important to me that I surround myself with people who, quite frankly, are smarter than me, and try to give them the opportunity to be successful. And so, in my day to day job here, that is a lot of what I do.
And how do you define good leadership, Jessica? What is good leadership to you?
I really think it's creating an environment where people not only feel seen, but valued, challenged, and supported. And I think when you give them those things, that they're able to show up and do their best work. It's To me, it's incredible when we get to see when we give somebody an opportunity. Recently we launched an internal program here at the hotel. I know it's hard to believe, but it is difficult to find people that want to work in this business, even though I love it. Everyone doesn't always see that from the outside, and so we decided to take a different approach. And while we've always been advocates of promoting from within, we really looked at our hourly colleagues and created a what we called the Leadership University, and it was a 6-month course with a syllabus and a midterm and final. And yeah, we targeted our high-performing colleagues and taught them the soft skills, right? I mean, in this business, you don't really need a college degree. We have general managers that started as bellmen and dishwashers. So for us, it's really about aptitude and finding leaders who care and want
Yeah,
to succeed, and maybe they don't tick every box on a resume.
right. Tell me about more about this class or this program. That's really interesting. So these were for internal employees, and did you guys bring in a organizer or a curriculum education? Like, how did you guys do this?
No, actually, my human resources team and the leadership committee championed this project. They did a lot of work, especially HR, and producing the content and bringing in different theories and concepts. And the leadership team hosted a class every 2 weeks. We had 7 attendees, or students in the class, and banquet server. We had front office host, a CS houseman, all bartender. And those were people that wrote that they raised their hand and said, "I'd like to be a part of this," and they had to get letters of recommendation and submit videos
Yeah.
about why they should
Oh,
be
wow.
involved. Yeah, I mean, we took it very seriously, but most importantly, they took it very seriously. And
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to there's like 2 prongs, right? You never wanna not come through for people when they want to learn more and want to be better, and then also the second thing, as you said, you wanna create that environment where they feel valued. "Hey, my company wants me to learn this skill set. I'm really good at A, they want me to be good at B." I mean, I sort of set it up that way, but what has the feedback been from the employees that have been through that?
well, I think it's twofold. One, um, nearly 100% of the students have now been promoted into supervisor, and we even have one that we promoted into an assistant manager. So there's now a proven track record of success. So the second part is that I think our other associates are looking, and they're saying, "Wow, this is a reality. We could do this too." And I think it's interesting. I never wanted to be a general manager. That was never my path. I never thought that I'm capable of doing that. And because I never really saw anybody that was like me, right? If you never saw a front office host being promoted into a assistant front office manager, you might not think that that was a path, right? And it just took somebody kind of tapping me on the shoulder and saying, "Hey, you should really consider this. And in order to consider it, this is what you need to do." And I did not want to do that.
Yeah.
at the time, but I
You're
did.
like, "No, not for me."
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I did, and had I not, I certainly would not be where I am today. So it's, it's so rewarding to be able to pay that forward and get to tap people on the shoulder and say, "Hey, it's your time. Are you
It's your
ready?"
turn. That's pretty cool. Maybe this is that person, but next question I had for you is who has influenced your leadership and your approach, and just who has influenced you the most in your life?
So many people, uh, to me though, honestly, some of the bad leaders that I've worked with probably have taught me more than the good. And I learned so much from them about who I didn't want to be as a leader, how I didn't wanna show up every day. Um,
Like, any examples stand out for something that sticks in your mind?
it's, certainly, yes, and, without saying names, but, to me, it was
Of course not.
it's again, it goes back to how people make you feel. And, I've learned from experience that, I would champion a project. It would be, my idea. I would put all the work into it, do the research, reach out to all the resources, pull it together, pitch it, and then all of a sudden it was somebody else's, right? It was my manager's, it was whatever. And listen, and sometimes that's the way it is. Life isn't fair, right? But it taught me because I don't want to do that, right? And so, of course, we're all still learning. We're all still um, using these things to make ourselves better. But that was certainly something that stuck with me that I wanted to make sure that I didn't exude as a leader and practice as a leader.
Yeah, leaders eat last is a good lesson I have learned, and that's pretty similar to that. Jessica, what feedback did you have you received in your career that was hard to hear at the moment, in the moment, but has turned out to be very important in your career?
I would say that feedback from my leaders has always been, as people like to say, feedback is a gift.
Yes.
I think I've heard that a few times, but I I take the feedback from the people that work for me, or that I work with, very seriously. And I'm getting that feedback from the people who expect more and they won't settle for anything less, right? So they're pushing me every day to take a deep look inside and find ways to improve, not just for me, but for the team and for the hotel. And um, you know, you don't really, it's hard to hear, especially if you're a high functioning leader, but, I think it's you have to remember, especially, as a general manager, people are always watching and, you know, um, how you show up and how you use that feedback to continue to improve is critical.
Yeah, people always watch, and it's a good segue to another question I had is, so you're in the hospitality business, and sometimes that changes, right? Because there's a hurricane or there's a storm
Certainly.
or there's some other calamity happening. As a leader, how have you learned to sort of lead with certainty? You talked about showing up who you are, but everybody's watching you. So how do you lead with certainty when you don't have it, right? You have your own issues, your own house, your own things to worry about, family, etc. How do you lead with certainty when in uncertain times?
Yeah, it's interesting that you that you phrase it like that because in this business, and I imagine in many others, there's no way that you can be 100% competent in every area that exists in the hotel, right? If you've never been through a hurricane, you can prepare all you want, right? But at the end of the day, when they're telling you you need to evacuate the hotel, which happens here, you've gotta be able to make quick and concise decisions, and people are looking to you, right, to be their leader and to give them that confidence, and so, although it may be an unpopular saying, I tell my leaders this, that you sometimes have to fake it until you make it, and that is a little bit more about confidence, not arrogance. So it really just requires you to have composure and confidence and to rely on your experiences, right? You are where you are for a reason. You have a lot of a lot of experiences that have, shaped your decision making. And so rely on it and, certainly reach out to your resources. Did that a lot during the hurricane. But,
Sure. Yeah.
people are you can't project panic. They're
Yes.
looking to you for stability and direction, and that's critical. But sometimes you have to exude confidence when you don't feel confident at all.
100%. I think fake it till you make it is a good one because it allows you to be out there and exude that confidence. And that's much better than being like, you know what, I don't know. Nobody wants that
Yeah.
as the leader either, right? Really, I'm not sure how we evacuate. They want that confidence in you.
And I think it's also okay to not know, right? I don't know, but I'm gonna find out, and I'm gonna be back in touch with you in X amount of time, right? And so I think, you certainly don't wanna act like you know everything and then make the wrong decision. And so having a circle and having people you can reach out to that you trust and that network is critical.
That's one good leadership lesson I've learned over my career supervising people is not even in terms of a crisis, but it's okay to say you don't know. Whereas when I first became an editor, I thought I had to know everything all the time. And anytime I got asked a question, I was like, well, I better answer this and it better be right. But to your point earlier, you said being authentic. I guess the question I have is, are you okay? And if you become okay telling people, I don't know that, but I will find out, or let's find out.
Yeah, and I think a leadership, skill that is absolutely required is vulnerability, right? So, for you to, I don't think anyone expects you, whether you're, the leader of a division in the hotel or the general manager, or the corporate, senior vice president. They don't expect you to know everything, and if you act like you do, and then you're giving, the wrong advice or not being able to follow through on what you said, then you lose trust. And ultimately, you want to trust your leaders. You want to trust that they have your back. You want to trust that they're giving you the right advice and pointing you in the right direction. And so being vulnerable is good, but it's not good to not ever know, right? If they're coming to you and every single time you don't know the answer, right? Then I think that's at the point where you have to look inside and say, am I expanding my knowledge enough in the areas that I need to expand them on, right?
Yeah. Yeah, to be a good leader. Excellent. So we're winding down here, Jessica. What can we look forward to? What's happening? Grand Hyatt Tampa Bay, the rest of 2026 as we're in the summer here. What's on the horizon for you guys?
Well, we are thrilled to celebrate this year the 40th anniversary of both the Grand Hyatt Tampa Bay and Oyster Catchers, our signature waterfront restaurant here on property. And so we have a lot of really fun things planned. We've brought back our iconic brunch, which we are thrilled about having, some of these generations of guests return to. We're also going to be celebrating our long-term colleagues. So we have colleagues that still are with us that opened the hotel 40 years ago. 30
Wow, that's
year,
amazing.
35 years, 30. So it's just it's my privilege to be able to lead this hotel during this time and celebrate with all of our incredible guests and colleagues.
Fantastic. Jessica Cain, General Manager of the Grand Hyatt Tampa Bay. Thank you so much for joining us on From the Corner Office podcast.
Thank you so much, Mark.
Thank you for listening to the Business Observer From the Corner Office podcast. I'm your host, Mark Gordon. This podcast was produced by Reed Corley of the Corley Company in Sarasota. To hear more episodes of From the Corner Office podcast, go to businessobserverfl.com.